Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been a while.
Has been a while.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
We were at the Pit. Pretty cool space tonight. Thanks for having us. Thanks for coming by. How you guys doing?
It's great. Thanks for giving us the tour.
Yeah, I know. So much fun. It's so cool. James, Cassie, and we got Kinch here. It has been a minute.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about getting together and doing this record for a second as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm super pumped on it. I'll give you a hint. The hat that James is wearing might give you a clue.
Maybe.
Let's just get into it.
Yeah, it's no secret. I always joke about it because on the actual title of the podcast, it says like what we're talking about, but then we act all like secretive.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
I don't know. What are we talking about? So we're talking about Are We Not Men?
We are DEVO.
Or it's actually what it's
Are we
Q.
not
We are
him?
not
Yes.
men.
Right. It's like it's a scream.
It's a.
Yeah.
It's a mantra.
So this
a way of
record,
life.
this is one that I didn't think that I was super familiar with, and then like the minute I listened to it, I was like, wow, yeah,
know it.
everything,
You know
of
the
course,
whole-
yeah.
Anyone
yeah.
that is a fan of punk or like left of center arts or the arts, think about the people that fell in love with this record and the people that worked on this record.
Oh, the people that worked on this record.
Yeah, so it's like anyone who's familiar with a big fan of 70s punk, any form of new wave you're thinking about, and the arts, whether they know it or not, is familiar with this record. Because it's in film and just so many cool
Well,
things.
also it was on my iPod. I'm sure, and that's the other thing is I'm not familiar with so much with the songs in the order. Like usually I'm
Right,
used, like
on
if I've
shuffle.
owned it or something.
Yeah.
But on this one, even if it wouldn't have been on my iPod, all these songs are like. You know all these songs. They've been in things. They've been in movies.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in commercials. And
ubiquitous.
I've seen DEVO now. So
Yes.
finally, we saw them
Who's
last
seen
year.
DEVO?
Oh, I've seen them 3 or 4 times.
I-
Yeah.
No Kinch? No
Yeah,
DEVO
I
for
have.
you?
I've seen them.
We saw them here, I think, outside a festival.
I've seen them multiple times.
You saw them at Midtown Music.
Yes.
Festival.
Yes, definitely saw
Seriously?
them.
Music Midtown.
Wait,
sorry.
when did they play Music Midtown now?
Early 2000s?
The day 2004, I think, because
Oh, I lived
in
I had to
Florida.
fly back to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And I was going to miss DEVO. I was going to miss Public Enemy. I was going to miss the Pixies and somebody else. I mean, it was
That's
a
like
great year.
that's like 4 strikeouts.
But wait,
Yeah.
did you?
It was rough.
So did you miss all those, or were you able to catch it? Did you?
No, I was
were going
at the
back to-
airport flying back, and it was
Wow.
like, you know what, I could have. Anyway, that's a different story for a different time.
That's another show.
But we've all seen DEVO live.
Finally, and that's one of my main reasons for going to wanting to go to Cruel World last year. And we have tickets for this year, but I think I'm going to sell them because
DEVO is not playing.
Because DEVO's not playing.
That's right.
DEVO was a big draw, and the closest I
Huge.
came to seeing DEVO was in 2016 at Moogfest in Durham. I saw, and it had nothing to do with DEVO. It was Mark Mothersbaugh and Bootsy Collins was doing Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yeah.
It's like kid
For
songs.
For children.
Still
And
In
yeah.
the park. That was the one.
It was in the park.
Yeah.
But we only caught like maybe like I don't know 3 or 4 songs because I think I don't remember who we had to rush off to see. It might have been Gary Newman. For some reason, it feels like it was Gary Newman.
Well, that was a cool year,
you
though,
know.
because one of the Bobs had passed, and they did a tour to pay for his medical bills and to give money to his family.
Yep.
And I saw that show at the Nokia Theater in Times Square, which is it's like maybe a little bit bigger than the Variety Playhouse.
Yeah.
And they did their stuff in chronological order. So like they came out, and Mark Mothersbaugh's got this big screamer behind me. He's reading the newspaper like JFK is dead, and then the Ohio shootings, and they're doing songs in a row.
That was the
And
hardcore
Yeah, it was
tour.
called hardcore. Yeah, it
I've
was
never
amazing.
seen them
It was amazing.
in a venue since like that. It's always been at like a festival.
Festival.
I think I've seen them twice.
Well, that's kind of the way, and I think they're kind of at the very end of their performing days. I think this is their last kind of shows that they're doing. They played at Cruise just recently.
Yeah,
Right.
Which is funny. They did like an 80s cruise, which is
I-
very
but
unlike.
I
you
read
know,
a recent article or a recent interview, and I'm thinking it was with Mark Mothersbaugh because I read I read a lot of interviews with Mark Mothersbaugh and Jerry. Is it pronounced Casale?
Casale. He's really interesting. I'm actually excited about when Mark just does films and doesn't do this anymore. I think Jerry's going to do like a Devo 2 band because he does records with kids singing the songs.
You know what?
Awesome.
Reading about him, they do
really
all kinds of crazy side projects, and a lot of the side projects that they do, like Jerry, I think I heard it was Casale, but his solo record that he did. A lot of Mark Mothers, most of Devo helped performed on it, so
He's the one that's I think the soul of Devo.
Yeah.
I think so.
Like Mark is the weird artist. Jerry Casale is he's the political
he's
drive.
Like
the visionary. He's the weirdo.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all really
because he has done the Devo songs with little kids singing them and stuff.
The thing was, Jerry Casale, he was friends with two of the people that were killed at the Kent State. Yeah, because he got a scholarship to go to school, and part of the exchange for getting the scholarship was kind of doing the introduction to the honors program. The teachers and the different classes, and so he became friends with two of them, and he said they were really cool, and they were only about 20 feet behind him. He was actually there, and it's just
right.
and it just completely.
Same with Mark.
What's weird
Both
is
of them were there.
Pre-internet, you only know so much about these.
Right.
But I did know that long before the internet. I knew that story.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know how.
Right.
Maybe it was a music magazine or something, but.
And the other thing you need to remember too is the beginning of them is way before even punk. It's 71, 72, you know. And so they were an art performance band and a visual band even first.
Oh yeah. Because that was Jerry Casale. That's kind of always been his thing. Was he said that it was performance art. It was more performance and visual arts. I mean, they did a lot of little shorts. Movies and stuff like that, and then they also did
have a
print.
VHS that was all just random Devo stuff.
Brian Kinch for a while now used to run around and wear little shorts, but then we got out of that phase. We don't do that anymore.
You speak about Mothersbaugh as artists, so I have a story. Me and Russ Jackson, and I think your husband, Greg.
Greg, thanks, Greg. Shout out, Greg.
Hey,
Greg. Thanks, Greg. Greg's the best.
We played at iDrum. We got asked to play at iDrum for some event on a weekend while Mark Mothersbaugh was exhibiting.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is what I remember about us playing, right? Because I don't hardly remember anything about it other than it was packed because there was another group from Georgia State, a jazz group or something playing after us.
Which is probably a Ben Davis band.
Sure.
Probably, but it was way more. So it was way more packed than usually us just noodling and stuff, making art. But so during the show, and I'm pretty sure Russ is here. I think all the art is Mark Mothersbaugh, and all I remember about it was they were all different variations of art of a chicken being choked.
Oh yeah.
No, apparently art
Right.
is insane.
All random. So I remember playing. This is one of my only memories. I'm playing guitar and I'm doing all
choking
up
chicken,
here, and there's all this choking of the chicken art all around me.
And not to mention, you were all wearing really tight shorts.
That's right.
You know what I'm seeing?
That's all I remember about his
There's
art.
a theme
Always
here.
about choking chicken. Do you remember any of those pieces?
Well, Mark is always he generates
fan of that.
a postcard
Postcards.
a day at least that he paints, and you can get all this. You can just get his postcard for $10 or something.
It was so hard
Anything he makes,
researching
we're
because
big
there
fans.
was
creating something every day.
Yeah, and he
Always.
was talking about creating his art and how he just really wants it dispersed everywhere. He doesn't just want to display it in the galleries and then what doesn't sell comes back. He just wants it everywhere. It's really they're such visionaries when it comes to just the creative.
There you go.
10 minutes.
Unless it's Cassie.
10 minutes a hat.
Yeah,
10 minutes
we'll just swap it around.
But Mark is definitely the creative artist force, right?
Who likes to choke chickens, but who doesn't? So.
And at the
Well,
same time,
he wants it forever in your brain.
That's right.
he
I'll
kind
never forget
of
it.
is I think that's always been the struggle, is because I think Jerry Casale is Devo is everything. It's his vision, his life, and Mark has always been I'm penned in too much.
It's like a
I have
project
to.
for him.
For him, it was always frustrating that he had to write an album, tour it for a year or 2 years, go in and write another album. He's only making 12 songs. And that's why I got into soundtracks with Nintendo Musica, is because he could write a song every day. And it was his creativity. He was like stifled almost in Devo.
That's interesting.
Creatively.
Like
So does that mean there's tons of Devo on a shelf somewhere no one's ever heard?
I think
The snippets. I bet you
I think there's
one
a
minute
lot
snippets,
of
probably
stuff.
1,000, 1 million snippets.
There definitely is a lot of stuff. I don't know if there's so much like Devo that hasn't been heard. Because most of the stuff I think that I read, it's either on bootlegs, and then there's some other stuff that they said finally made it out in some form. But Mark Mothersbaugh, he doesn't just. He's not just the musician. He's like so much like the artist and
artist
all of that.
That
is like
this band. I mean, the drummer. Oh my goodness. I mean,
Alan Myers.
Alan Myers.
Amazing.
And he's the only one that's not related to somebody else.
Right, the others are
in the
brothers.
band.
The
Yeah,
others
and
are
like
brothers.
the original drummer was Mark's
Right.
third brother.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
There's
Or that's what I was going to say.
'cause you got
Originally, there were
Mark
3
Mothersbaugh,
Mothersbaughs.
Bob Mothersbaugh.
And was it Jim?
and-
I think it's Jim Mothersbaugh.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
pretty
going to
sure
drive me
it's Jim.
crazy.
It's Jim.
He was the
90%
original
sure.
drummer. So there's three Mothersbaugh brothers
And then two
two
Casale
Casale brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2 sets of brothers.
Wait.
But then they got Alan Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was, I mean, all the way through up until Total Devo, he was.
Yeah, I think
He
that was
was the
like the
guy.
first maybe 10
They got the
years.
drummer from Sparks after that to finish off
Very
their,
cool.
their 80s run.
Very cool.
And then they went
A
into
lot-
retirement, and I started listening to them. So this isn't my original copy. I have I bought at Chapter 13 Records next to Dagwood's Pizza
Yeah.
on Spalding,
Yeah.
Holcomb Ridge Road, next to Ollie's BC Surf and Sport.
Spalding and Hokum Bridge Road.
Like
That's
Dumb-
right up by
Dumb-
where
Shout
I
out
work.
to Will Green and the Blacklips.
Shout-
That's
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
their hood.
totally.
So Chapter
Definitely.
13 Records, which I've talked about a lot recently, had a picture disc of the UK version. It's up at the Cabinista, but it's the
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
disc of the first album, and I got that at age 14.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
and it was one of the first like LPs I ever bought. Like we bought
Yeah.
tapes. We all bought.
Right.
I remember being
License to
turned
Go
on.
on
I
tape, but
remember
this is
being
like
turned on to them
one of
really
the
young
first.
too. In my teenage years, I'm a big fan of a band that looks like a gang or like S1Ws
the
do it. Like
visual
everyone,
components.
like everything is
They have
cool.
something to say.
And then the cool thing is that I was going to mention. I know we're going to get into songs, but it's like gut feeling to me always sounded like the greatest Stooges song with them collaborating with somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting?
And then I heard that I think Mick or Keith said it was they did the best Stones cover that they've ever heard, which is wild.
So
you know?
there's like I can get to that story later, but I just thought it was fascinating when getting into this that I don't know. Some stories say that they were passed a demo, and other stories say that they saw one of their videos, but. Iggy Pop and David Bowie are the ones that got them the
Yes,
record
for
deal,
sure.
and then they, along with Brian Eno and Fripp, what's this first?
Robert Fripp?
Robert Fripp.
Yeah.
Robert Fripp. All 4 of those were vying to produce this record, which I
Right.
think is like
Right.
that's
pretty
nuts
incredible.
for your first record.
All right, your turn.
Pass the mic.
Oh.
No, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Mick Ronson would have been there.
Yeah,
Cool.
that would have
But
been
in the end,
yeah,
they
no,
kind of
we gotta-
sorry.
for
So
foam-
that's
foam,
not
yeah.
an official Energy Dome. Just to say, I got that from my friend Joe, who had it as a Halloween costume. He was like, "Do you want an Energy Dome?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But when you buy the official ones, they're more
Comfortable.
solid.
So
Yeah.
when did you start listening to this? Because I think we did this.
Oh, when I started, I don't really know. I mean, I've heard the songs
always
throughout
been
my
there.
life. Like it just kind of seems
Yeah.
like I don't know the first time that I ever heard Devo. It's
It
just
was
it's really
mid
just
it was
something
mid
that.
80s for me.
I mean,
for
I'm sure you heard "Whip It."
I mean,
first.
well, yeah,
Of
no,
course.
I don't know because I was so into music, and Whip It was like what 80. I think Whip It came out in like 80, 81.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I mean, I can say they probably weren't playing this too much on just regular stations, and I don't think it was something my mom. I don't think it was something that they were into. So, yeah, maybe it was Whip It, and then just like went back and
then
heard
you
it.
go
Just from the
back.
videos, but they made all their own videos, so that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And the Whip It video is so bizarre.
It's a
and-
great video. It's a fun video, even when like you're flirting with
It works. It needs a
more
big
pop
head. You can-
you
can fit 'em
it
on
still
good.
is really
So this album for me though is pretty foundational
Absolutely.
because I think when I was a guest in the early days, I talked about I had a babysitter that got us into punk when
Right.
literally like I'm 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother to mention Devo because that was like
That was a
the
given.
Devo and the Police were like just like there
Everywhere.
always
Yeah.
through my whole life. It was the Damned in His Car that stuck with me because that was the first really punk song I heard.
Sound,
But this was this is literally like late 70s for me. I mean, like it was new.
Right.
And Todd Render's blasting out in the Volvo with me and my brothers, and we're little kids.
Right.
So this one like is.
It's important.
So my life goes like the Carpenters and Easy Listening and my mom's soul stuff,
and then
Gut
Feel.
a couple of Dr. Hook songs, and then it really just bounced from Todd Render right into punk and new wave. So this would be like probably the first. Right. This or the Police is definitely the first like idea of music outside of the constraints, inside the constraints of youth, like
which is
what the youth are doing. Because when you're growing up, I'm listening to the things my parents like that are already 10, 20 years old. Not a lot of contemporary stuff.
Right.
But well, I guess a little bit, but overall, you're listening to like an older generation of music.
Radio.
This is like stuff made for
exactly.
me.
Right.
This would have been number one or two.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So which is still lovely.
And
but
it's so. I mean, it was really so revolution. Like it wasn't so much it's just kind of the concept behind it. Like it's the whole concept behind it.
Yep.
And then it's also the fact that they were doing things that a lot of people weren't doing. I mean, they got, I think in like 2010, so 4 years before we went to Moogfest in Asheville, they got the first innovation in music, the Moog Innovation in Music Award.
Yeah,
so it's like they were doing a lot of like unique things.
Well, yeah, I mean, this whole record inspired like a whole new genre inside punk, but even more than that, it made nerds cool. I mean, that's the best thing ever. Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, like that's the raddest thing.
It still doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I understand everything that's on this page, but like, to me, it's just so
it was very random.
Weird sensibility there.
Do you know how they did that? Okay, so what happened was there was a Chichi Rodriguez or something. He's like some golfer, and that they saw a picture of him and they wanted that. But I think somebody at the record company thought that he was a golfer, and he thought that it was insulting to Chichi Rodriguez, and so they tried.
They thought I'd also get sued.
Well, no, but they got permission, I think, but it was later. It was too late.
Yeah.
So what they did was they got this one picture that was a melding of. I've heard two different stories, but straight out of like what Jerry Casale said it was JFK, Carter, and LBJ like melded their faces together, and then they took and melded the face that they had of Chichi Rodriguez, and so it's just a conglomeration of those.
See, I thought this was like this thing about like we'll make the moon, but we'll make it look like a
golf.
Like it's some kind of intellectual statement.
So you know what I think of is like when you think of like Americana or American history, like the 50s, like the picture of like the housewife. They're like, we're definitely not this.
Right.
But that's what I always meant. They're like, we're not that happy American. Like, we're doing something different.
But the overall aesthetic is like, all the videos with the little boy.
Bougie boy.
Yeah. It all has this feeling of like, are you familiar with like in robotics, the concept of the uncanny valley? When your brain can't classify something, you get nauseous, you feel weird.
Yeah.
Like AI, the Polar Express movie was criticized because it gave kids the uncanny valley.
Okay.
You're like, oh, are they real? Because they look just real enough.
Right. Just real enough.
That's kind of the aesthetic that Devo throws off, and everything they do is like
the Stepford Husbands.
It's a little messed
up. They know being able to provoke people in weird ways.
But that's got to be. I know after reading the interviews that I've read, that's incredibly intentional. Like it's like Mark Mothersbaugh even said in the commercials that he makes, because he makes a lot of commercials.
Sure.
In the commercial that he makes, he says he just loves putting in like little subliminal messages and stuff of like his like stuff that he has to say. It was just really fascinating hearing about all like the aesthetic part of it, and the fact that Mark Mothersbaugh definitely more. Jerry Casale, he was more of the political and the visionary of kind of like what the de-evolution was more like his thing. Mark Mothersbaugh is just this kind of like insane artist that
choke the chicken. Yeah.
Everything about it to me is just a little enough off to be provocative and just. You're not really comfortable or understanding exactly.
Yeah.
It's got this just weird vibe.
And then like what you're talking about the postcards, like repetitive. So no matter what, subliminally, it is going to reach into your own conscience.
Yeah. Well, talking about the You're talking about their cover of the Stones.
Yeah, I love it.
No Satisfaction. They said that when they first did that, they had to get his approval. So he sat down. They sat down with him to listen to it, and they said that he had a glass of wine.
It was
and he
Mick,
just,
right?
Mick.
It was
and
Mick.
and he just like sat there. Yeah, I just said him, but it was Mick.
No, it took me a minute to realize.
And so he was just staring off with his glass of wine, and then like a little over halfway through, like he gets up and he turns it on, and then I guess this was a Jerry Casale interview because they said that he did his little Mick impersonation, and he was just like, I like it. I like it. I'm
a fan of Mick Jagger's, man. He's underrated, man. He's awesome.
But then supposedly the background is that the executive who was in there was like, tell them you like it because you're going to get all the royalties from this song.
Oh, really?
And it's going to buy you. They're not going to get any
aspect.
money for Satisfaction because it's Mick
Right.
Jagger
Song,
and Keith Richards. They got all the money.
Did they get all of it? Because the funny thing is they did change the words a little, right?
But it doesn't matter.
It's close enough.
It's their
but they
song.
did completely deconstruct it. Like
It's
they
so
really
cool.
did.
I just gotta ask this question. If you had never heard and you didn't know anything like the DEVO and just someone said, you want to listen to this record?
Yeah.
What would you do?
No, that's the thing.
Like it looks like literally like a Curious George
It
novel.
does. It does.
So there's a good chance I wouldn't be intrigued. Is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
it's like
Right. You're just like.
And then let me just say one other thing I just noticed, and here's the thing is when I just noticed this, I have no idea. There may be a whole website just devoted to what I'm about to tell you what I noticed about this record.
What?
The image, he's looking to the left, so it's like when you turn over, you're looking. He's not on the.
Now he's
He's
looking
looking
to
the
the right.
opposite way on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's not even the same artwork.
That's awesome.
Are
It's
you-
like-
wait,
I don't think
it-
I ever knew that either. That
Oh,
it-
wait a minute.
it's
He's
like-
not.
That's why we love
Maybe
having
it's on.
we
It's
love
a
having Brian.
slightly
Actually,
we
I
love
think
having
it might
Brian
just
as a
be-
guest.
I-
No, hold on.
Wait, no,
Oh,
I
I'm
think
wrong,
it's
I'm wrong.
just I think it's just
I'm
like
wrong. It's because it moves when
I
you
think
move
it plays a
Hold
trick on
It
you.
looks like his eyes are
follows you
following
around
you
the
when you
room.
go like that. So
That's
I
what
think
it is.
just
Yeah,
a-
it's got that.
Yeah, it's very creepy and it's very plastic, and I think it goes well with their
What they're doing.
de-evolution.
Yeah, and then
You know.
It is
and bougie.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the eyes are not looking in the same direction.
It's all messed up
Yeah.
in a lot of weird ways.
Yeah.
But just to say, I mean, so I saw first time I got to see them was at the 930 Club in DC,
Oh wow, very cool. Yeah.
and they played the first album. They played this album in its entirety, straight through,
I
and
don't think I've been there.
it was pretty amazing because this era of DEVO, those first two albums, this one and Duty Now for the Future, they're all their original set from Ohio.
Yeah.
And when they moved, when they got, when they put out those two records with Warner Brothers, and then they moved to
Yeah,
LA,
right. Thanks.
they ditched and they created Freedom of Choice. But those were all new songs. They
Right.
said we're
Right.
gonna break with the
California era.
past. We're gonna make new music, new American music. So these first two records, this one, Are We Not Men, We Are DEVO, and Duty Now for the Future, are their original set of songs that they
Gotcha.
played in Ohio.
Okay.
And around in Max's Kansas City in New York and
Yeah.
in the UK under Stiff when they got signed by Stiff Records. Anyway, all this stuff, every song they had different choreography. For every song on the stage, they would do different all the different, because when you see them do Uncontrollable Urge, they like do, and then they move, and then they move, and they do, all that stuff was all very well choreographed and thought out and planned. So when I saw them, they did all the choreography again of all the songs. They
went back and
recreated all of
redid
them.
what year was that?
Were they wearing
It was
oversized
after
pants?
it was like 2005.
Because there was, I did read that when they went back and they did a tour, that the stage performance, it was very, very similar to what they originally
That's what they
did.
They definitely like recreated everything as genuine as possible. And then also, it took me 15 years or more to actually see them live because in the 90s,
They
really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
they were
They were
dormant.
done by like '88, right?
Yeah, about 88.
When
Because
they,
I remember the last
Smooth
single
Doodle
would have been.
Maps.
Oh,
They did
yeah, I forgot
Disco
about that.
Dancer.
the first time
last
they
year.
played Max's Kansas City, David Bowie actually introduced them. Like that's insane to
There's
me. I'm
great
sorry.
pictures of all them. I mean,
It's
all their
pretty
Max's
so
City stuff.
crazy.
There's a new documentary that's going to be coming out. The first official documentary in DEVO is being made right now.
I have a feeling over the next few years
And
there's going to be 2 or 3 because it should be because there's so much,
There's so much. I've read so many books on them, and I own a lot. I actually brought this.
Yeah,
I'm part of.
What do you got there? The club.
Are you part of the?
I'm part of Club Devo.
Devo?
So I'm part of the Devo fan club. Sue got me this as a Christmas present one year.
So you're not really a fan then? That's what you're saying.
Right.
Right.
She is.
She is for you.
He's
So
part
it
of
has
the club.
Yeah,
the
awesome.
Club
I agree
Devo
with that.
official documents,
Nice.
Real nice.
which comes
Wow.
Real nice.
with a Mark Mothersbaugh postcard.
And you wouldn't
love
dare
it.
stick any of that stuff around.
It has. Is that one in?
2007. That
Yeah.
was his artwork. So the
There's
visual.
no chickens? There's
Beautiful
no-
Mutants.
No chickens.
I got some
No, but
flyers,
that guy's he's got some stuff going on.
some stickers. I love this one. I love "Toil is Stupid." It's
I love
such
it.
a great thing, and it has a letter.
And
from
then you get a
General
letter.
Boy, which was the Mothersbaugh's dad, Bob Mothersbaugh, or whatever senior.
Yeah, he was he? I thought that Mark Mothersbaugh was bougie boy, right?
Yeah.
And then, but his dad was General Boy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's a nice little memo, and I got my ID
I
card.
love it, dude.
Nice.
That's amazing, James. I
It's-
think
Yeah.
you told me about this.
I'm
I've never
impressed.
actually
I was
seen
in the $6 Million.
I know. I
Man
just
fan
put it
club.
with my
But
records, and I
never
forget
did,
about
like,
it.
that's
I
pretty
forgot I
cool.
had all these stickers. I
I-
gotta do
That's
something.
pretty
with
cool.
this.
I'm very impressed.
One thing I thought was really an interesting story was like the first time that they played, the first show they ever played, the only reason they ended up on it was opening for Sun Ra, and the only reason they ended
That's
up on the
amazing.
bill was because they were able to convince them that they were just a covers band. So
Yeah.
what they would do is they got out there and they would say, this one's by like Badfinger or
And then do their
something,
own, yeah.
and then they would do
They
like
just
one of their songs.
played
And so
Jocko Homo.
eventually people started getting onto them, and they were like throwing
Dig it.
things at him and stuff. So they just went right into Jocko Homo,
Yeah.
and it was Jerry Casale said it was a Halloween party for radio execs,
Yeah.
and like whatever. And so he said that like this Frankenstein dude goes like up to Mark Mothersbaugh, and he's just like, "You guys are fucking assholes," and then it like because they go right into Jocko Homo, and they're like, and that's the A bomb for us, like that Jocko Homo's the A bomb for us, and then it's like, you guys are fucking assholes, and they got ousted.
And they played, because you can listen to that recording, they played like 15 minutes of the end of like,
Yeah.
are we not men? We are DEVO.
And
Well,
in
like
that
doing all the
recording,
monkey
because
sounds
they played part of it in the recording,
and-
you can actually hear the guy go up and say to him, "You
Yeah.
guys are fucking
You
I
hear all
was
this
going to say,
antagonism and
James
everything.
Joyce, my brother James Joyce from now on is not James Joyce, and then we're just going to refer to him as number 1499.
Is that what he is?
1499.
Number
That's his number.
1499.
That's awesome.
The club.
So I'm going
Club
to text.
Devo.
I'll text you tomorrow. Be like 1499. You want a quick
So
mandate? You know.
is nice.
The thing is, you got to join the club twice. You can have stickers to use.
Yeah,
stickers
You know what
to
I mean?
keep.
You're gonna have to join twice.
Yeah.
There's two different names.
Yeah,
I understand.
I need
Yeah,
to join.
General Joyce.
Yeah, General Joyce.
General
That's
Joyce.
awesome.
That's like super cool. I
So let's talk about
Yeah.
let's go through the album
Yeah.
really quick of the songs we like. Are there any songs you don't like?
I mean,
No.
for
not
me,
definitely.
you know, it's like it's really hard because like just in my research and stuff, there's a lot of people that'll diss things like space junk. I think it's incredible. I don't think there's anything on here I dislike.
Yeah.
Because even the ones where it's like maybe the vocals are repetitive or some parts where there's enough little breakdowns of like just weird shit that's just like
Yep.
that I just. So, talking about vying for producing this, Brian Eno actually did end up producing this,
Yeah, sure.
and David Bowie did some of the engineering because it was recorded in Germany, which I always thought was like super. Well, not always, but
At
when it was
Connie
fun, it's
Plank's
like,
studio, I believe, right?
in Germany,
It was
yeah.
at,
But I think. So the reason that I thought of that was because
A
Yeah,
lot of awesome.
Connie Plank
yeah, a lot of
Studios.
awesome
Because
bands
Brian
were-
Eno
everything
apparently
was
was
recorded.
like
Heroes was recorded.
Brian
Yeah, later
Eno
on,
was
like Depeche Mode, Boys
it
Next Door,
was
Nick
like-
Cave, Bad Seeds, yeah.
pushing for like some. I guess that he tried putting in some like even weirder and like changing some of the like the cute like the electronics like whatever, but they wouldn't go for it. Like they stuck,
No.
which I think is great because
Devo's incredibly stubborn, and they're very insular. There's a weird Ohio Midwestern like you don't
Stubborn,
mess
yeah.
with me. Yeah, like there's this weird Midwestern streak to them where they don't collaborate very well. Honestly, they did with Neil Young.
Yes.
They
So
did.
Devo and Neil Young
Which is awesome.
connected,
I love that.
but like they've always been sort of like closed off. They collaborated. They were the backing band for not Josie Cotton. I'm thinking of
Tony Basil?
Tony Basil.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because
Yeah.
Jer was dating her at the time. There's
We like Tony
fascinating stories about Jer, and I mean they're all messed
This
Well,
was
I
crazy.
think part of the reason I thought of that was because Space Junk and any of the songs that might seem repetitive, like I like that they stuck with their vision of the the different, because it's not over. I mean, it's just like you'll have like repetitive and sometimes, but then there'll be like some weird little sound over here that I think just makes it, and just like. Yeah. So every one of these is a winner for me. Kind of
minimalist in a way. Supposedly, went in and put all this synth over it and made all this crazy stuff, and they erased all of it.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we don't want any of that.
It would be interesting to hear that as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm putting in time here. Did this start Eno's run post Roxy Music in America, like doing stuff in the U.S.?
He hadn't done Talking Heads yet.
Talking Heads was after this.
That was after this. So he was still in Europe. He hadn't moved to New York by this point because they recorded this in Germany at Connie Plank's studio.
But he was
already like recording stuff with like Cluster and other bands.
He had a 15-year run where everything he made was just like
unreal. Couldn't touch it.
Unbelievable.
I'll be honest. I like his solo records. Even I haven't bought one. I don't know when his last one was, but even his solo records.
He still releases one at least every year, a full-length album of Eno stuff. It's crazy.
He did one. It was like 2009, and me and Greg were really into.
We'll do an episode on Eno.
Without a doubt.
I mean, you have to do Here Come the Warm Jets.
Well,
but
I do have to play kazoos all the way through the episode.
So nobody has any. I mean, there's none that we think are weak. Are there any that we think?
I have one that may be slightly controversial.
Okay, what?
The only song on this record that I don't think is like a complete.
Is it Mongoloid? Just because you have a hard time with Mongoloid, the word?
No, because that's a great song.
It's an incredible song.
I actually think I Can't Get No Satisfaction is the weakest song.
Really?
Okay, I think it's a great cover.
Yeah.
For me,
no, that should say more about the album because that's still a great
it's
song.
Saying like this
I'm
is the
saying that
weakest.
when I hear Gut Feeling or Uncontrolled Urge or
those
are like I'm just like this is incredible. You know what I mean?
Gut Feeling is like I just snorted some gas.
Gut Feeling is incredible. I think
and I'm down.
For
you know
me,
what I'm saying? Like gut.
I think, and even though I love it, the last song on the album is what's it called? Because I don't know. Shrivel Up. I love that song. Like I can listen to it. I just think that for a closer, it might not be my favorite closer. Like for me, it might have been better if one of the songs was like ending a little bit more of a punch rather than Shrivel Up.
Right, but you understand. But they started off doing visuals so that they can film, and it's the way to close a movie. It's
and then also they started out just doing their own freaking thing, so it's just like,
but they chose also this album and Doing Out for the Future. All those songs were sequenced and chosen in advance.
Right.
When they got signed, they said album 1 is going to have all these songs. Album 2 is going to have all these songs.
They already knew. Okay.
And the second album ends up on was it Red Light Express or whatever it's also like it ends on a weird kind of down note, just sort of like anticlimactic in a way. Mm-hmm. But I do think all of these songs are great.
Honestly, it's the predictable thing, but I think Gut Feeling is my favorite song.
I agree. Brian, by the way, is going to be
Brian's
going to be in Vegas on Sunday. But I'm going to say Gut Feeling as well.
The only thing with Gut Feeling, though, that's challenging is that it doves right into Slap Your Mommy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been, if I'm DJing it, I always have to put on something else. But if you're listening to it on a CD, it doesn't end. It goes straight into Slap Your Mommy. Right. Which was their encore song. Mm-hmm. They used to, if they had like multiple encores and they just needed somebody to come back out, they would just do Slap Your Mommy, I love it. What I love about, and then they would end the show like a 30-second song.
I love them combined. I love them combined like that.
Although it sounds nothing like,
it's a little frustrating because you want to have Gut Feeling as its own,
and then,
and then
so that you could just
you got to be ready.
But
if you're DJing,
if I'm DJing, then I'll have something ready to go. I'll just let it run.
So. Yeah, that's actually the way to do it. And then you go down, you just go down the steps at O'Meara, you have yourself a whiskey. For some, the way they attack it, like I said, it doesn't sound anything like it. But another one of my favorite bands, I associate it with "Push It Away" by The Cure, because it's like several minutes of just badass instrumental, and then the end singing, and then it's just done. But it's you know what I'm saying? It's so wonderful.
I hear that. I love that song.
Love that song.
I would have cassette is how I would have consumed this. I didn't get the vinyl until the '90s, probably.
Yeah.
I know this to be one of those cassettes like Zen Arcade and Double Nickels on the Dime and Milo Goes to College, where like if you look at the tape, there's not much information left. Right. And then if you go to like the Gut Feeling part of it, because I used to, in the early days of MP3 in the warehouse,
you're actually looking at,
I was want to transfer just stuff of my music, so I was actually looking at I remember this about the Devo tape. Like you can see gut feeling. It's just like there's nothing there on the
Right.
tape.
That's the one you rewound.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna,
Wait.
and back then I would have known how long the song was in rewind time, like 11 seconds, so I could, you know what I mean, like so I could just stop, so I wouldn't have to waste any time, and I go right back in the song.
Well, is there another song? So Sloppy is also I Saw Baby Getting. Are those two songs too, or are they just one song?
It's
Because for some reason I thought that there was another one where it's actually two songs combined on this.
It's kind of, I mean, some of their songs are kind of crammed together and stuff. I think,
Which I love because it's just another like quirky thing that like, and I just love that like they are their own
They
thing.
smushed a few
They're
stuff in
quirky.
there.
I was gonna say, you think about like, again, by the way, and we're fans and fanatics and nerds ourselves, so like this is this great thing. But you think about how they made that cool, and then how many bands that they inspired, like even in this town, like Man or Astroman and Being Without a Face, and in Washington D.C., the Dismemberment Plan, like they inspired Brainiac, so many cool.
That sounds like
do you know what I mean?
There's a ton of Brainiac.
Yeah,
But even more from the
Also, Ohio.
And TCB, when I think about the Pogues and the Clash and PIL, when they were on the Alex Cox show, straight to hell, and like
It's the whole fascist vibe.
Without the racist memorabilia. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But you know what I mean. And I for me as a kid in New York. When they were getting big and they were playing in New York, I was only 7. I discovered them maybe 7 years later or 8 years later, but it doesn't matter. It had the same impact. And I'm like, one day, 35, 40 years later, I'm gonna wear a uniform on stage. Like, I absolutely love it.
You've even dressed as Santa on stage.
I've been Santa a few times.
For me, probably my very favorite, and I love it as the opener. Is uncontrolled. I mean, it's an incredible opener. Like it immediately catches you, and I don't know if it's. I mean, I know it's because it's an incredible song, but also it's. I mean, it's been in a lot. Like it's been in a lot of soundtracks and different things like that. So it's just probably more like. It's also because it's part of life. Like your memories from like.
Yeah, and the thing is it's like we have to. Brian and I talk about this because he's gonna be in Vegas on Sunday. No, but Brian and I have worked together and traveled, and you live together and you play music together, and so you can't help but you just talk about the things you love all the time, and you can't it's like a kid that's into discovers, let's say, this band through a modern pop punk band now. Who cares? That's wonderful that you did it. You know what I mean? And we need to not be a snob about things.
Right.
So if so many kids have learned about this band through a Wes Anderson movie, that's wonderful.
Sure.
Wes Anderson makes beautiful movies.
Right.
And so I just think because you want the world to hear your stuff, so it's the best. And
it kind of encompasses from the Damned and that early stuff over here to Captain Beefheart over here to it hits so many dimensions of
Jerry Casale and Greg said this before I finished reading through my research and interviews and stuff. But Greg was just like, you can really hear the Beefheart influence in this.
Yeah, you totally can.
And Jerry Casale was like, he's like huge influence when you mention Beefheart. Like
it's insane. So, but it's also just parts of James Brown even. I mean,
he did say that too.
Yeah.
But I think I just noticed this, that it actually says actual size
I love that.
on the tiny actual size.
Yeah, well, this is attention to detail.
So much, really, the whole picture of de-evolution and how it's thought out and all the different creative aspects.
You only know about attention to detail in the music. You already know, but you only know that there's attention to detail because you know the band he is.
Right.
Otherwise, I know this up and you're like, this person has no plan.
I was gonna say this is a housewife. This is a housewife in the '50s whose husband sells cars, and he cheated on her.
That screams no plan unless you know the band.
I think of wifey. I think of the wifey picture. You know,
it's like Beefheart Ella Guru, right? If you heard that song,
I love that. Yeah,
you would never know that was purposeful unless you really undered.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But we're big Beefheart fans.
Visual representation.
We've done 2 shows on Beefheart, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do 2 more over the next couple of years. I mean, big Beefheart fans, and you keep on hearing when you think about that de-evolution, you're like, oh, I hear this. I
You
hear
know,
that.
I
hear this.
beef art. I mean, you guys already know this. It's like I like the early beef art. When it gets too weird,
Yeah.
I'm a little like.
Well-
But this is this to me is like, yeah, I can see the beef art influence, and I love I love the weirdness. But somehow they bring it cohesive, where it's really
Yeah.
you can really sink
Well,
your teeth into it.
just weird
when
enough.
West End Motel played our first time in the West Coast in like 2012, we stayed at Jam and Row, Ben Thrower's uncle's house in Los Angeles, and he had a picture in his living room of him. Not ready for this. Mark Mothersbaugh, Danny Elfman, and Tom Waits. I go, what is this? He goes, oh, we're friends. We get together every couple of years and we play
Sure.
music together. And I go, I want to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I've heard
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah. So it's like, because
This is Ben's uncle.
yeah, well, Ben Thrower's family will always. You'll never be surprised. He's got Hollywood, and he's just the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
never tell you about it. You gotta ask him about it.
Yeah, he's got. It's basically his aunt's husband, or no, his uncle. All right, I can't even describe it. But let me tell you,
that's a cool story.
The picture was
knows?
real. The picture was real. Denise probably knows. Denise knows, but like
Franny.
cousin Franny.
Cousin Franny.
Cousin Franny, yeah. And she was on, what's the show? American Horror Story. You know.
Nice.
And she's amazing. I went garbage picking with
Thrower
her.
is
It was
a
pretty.
treasure.
It was pretty. I went garbage picking with her. It's pretty cool. We got a bed, and we
Thrower
made
is a treasure.
and we made a garden. And we cut the mattress and we put plants through the springs. It was
This is
wonderful.
sounding really creepy, like
It
a
was
Mark
beautiful.
Mothersbaugh.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and then we were choking chickens.
It may have inspired it, you know. But I guess my point being is when you talk about that, like nothing really surprised you because like Waits was certainly influenced by beef art, like, and you're like, wait a minute, all these guys met each other and influenced each other.
Yeah.
I mean, Elfman, goodness, I mean, it's amazing, you know.
Nice.
Well, cheers.
Yeah, cheers to
Cheers.
the two Bobs
Devo.
That's right.
and just
Yeah.
the whole Casal family.
It's here for Devo, one of
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah, man,
One of the
thanks-
all-timers.
Thanks so much. And
If you get a chance to see them, go see them.
Definitely,
you don't know how
'cause
much
who
longer
knows?
it's going to go.
Exactly,
we may only
exactly.
see him they may only do one more tour. I saw him in San Francisco 2018.
Well, I know.
That's why I texted you. Fred Armisen was playing drums.
I know
Yes,
when
that
I
was
started early, like very early in the episode, I started talking about one of the interviews that I read. I don't remember if it was Mark Mother. I think it might have been Mark Mothersbaugh who said, "Yeah, like I mean, I would be happy if we were doing this for another 50 years." Like
Yeah.
he's cool with that. I think though, but he's kind of the one that's held up like the plague
Well,
and making new music
you
because
could
he
pick the
really
poison
likes
now.
like the.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
not
cool
the slog where they have to play every night. They'd be like, we'll just play these. And
Yeah,
then,
they
They
just
can-
do
they
targeted
really do.
things.
so that
But,
kind of
yeah.
satisfies the thing
They're
you're
not
talking
going to
about Mark
tour
Mothersbaugh. Now you
anymore,
can just
but
do
they'll
that
just
creative
play.
thing.
Which
That's
is
really
really like just like a final like incredible about them because at first they were just these oddballs and then Whippet came out and they made it big and then
Yeah.
other things weren't as successful and they were dropped by one and then all these people
Comes
now are
around.
coming back and really like getting more inspired and now there's this whole generation of like you know
Yeah.
like kids like
Yeah.
that are getting into it and so
Brainiacs.
it's just
Love Brainiac. So there's a lesson to you kids. Keep doing what you're doing, and it'll come around. Right, Brian?
That's right.
Listen to B. Kinch.
Just put it together.
Yeah, and anything negative, push that against the wall, and join the de-evolution. This is my buddy. This is my buddy, AKA 1499.
1499 Nice.
Cheers, everybody. Thank
gotta
you,
join.
guys.
Bye.
Yeah,
I'm going to join.
me
wanna
too.
join.
James, Gerald Casale from Devo here, talking to you from my house in Napa Valley. Sue Joyce and I, we wish you a very Merry Christmas. She tells me that you're a real fan and that you have a Devo license plate and are going to Cruel World, which I assure you is going to be a great day. Thank you so much for liking our music. I really mean that. And more than ever, de-evolution is real. So duty now for the future, James.